Hello and welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona podcast in which we are playing Persona 3 Reload in real time along with the in-game calendar day by day, minute by minute, second by second, hour by hour, year by year. I'm going back down and up and through all the time because we're having a great time talking about all the stuff happening in Persona. Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Dornbush, your host this week, joined as always by Tom Marks. Tom, how are you?
I'm pretty tired, but I'm good.
We're getting into the fall. It's busy.
It's been a busy day. It's been a busy week, but no, I am doing quite well. How are you?
I'm good. Speaking of busy weeks, it is a busy week in Persona 3. We did have our full moon last week, but it doesn't stop. This is not like a full reset week of calmness. This is we're still going. This is
sort of what I kind of complained I wanted a couple times, where it's like it's a week that's actually dealing with the fallout of the events that we just witnessed.
This game ramps, so
yeah, that's what I've been told. I'm excited
to jump into it, and we have a lot of story stuff to discuss, so I don't want to dilly-dally too much before we get into the days of September 8th through the 14th. Those are the correct dates, right? Because I had it wrong before. I did it right now. We're good. I know how math works.
Yes, because remember, we started on a 1.
True.
So everything ends on a divisible by 7.
I don't know why I thought you were going to be like, so everything ends on a 1. Because that would be weird, but here we are.
Math.
I stopped paying attention years ago. Anyway, before we get into the week and everything we have to discuss, we do, of course, want to start out with our confidant call out, which is a huge thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/takeyourtime. See, it's easy to get in one if you know what you're doing, Tom, who's supporting us at the Palace Ruler tier. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for showing all this support to us. It really, really means the world. So thank you for helping us to keep this show going. So as always, a huge call out and thank you to Akechi as a Jelly Bean, Astral Clock Tower, Brody S, Cameron C, Claudia R, Dallas, Damon, Dan, Dan F, Danimal Lover 01, Default Titus, Dexter, Keegan H, Michael V, One More Month Until Metaphor, Philip S, Programmer Sid, Sam K, Sarah M, Shade, Willie Wang Wang, and Zachary L. Thank you all so much for supporting the show, and thank you to everyone who's supporting the show over at patreon.com/takeyourtime. Head on over if you haven't already to get episodes early, ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. We're planning this month. Excited to talk about more when we have it together. But until then, speaking of that list of people, I do want to go over to the Patreon because, Tom, it may shock you, but One More Month Until Metaphor, as well as Francis, asked, are we going to be playing Metaphor ReFantasia? And I think it's worth mentioning. Obviously, look, yes. I think we're both very excited.
Yes, we're committing to it right now, simultaneously alongside this podcast.
Yeah. Oof, boy. We are, I think, both out of interest and want and excitement for this game, going to play it at some point.
Yeah.
Especially because we have not really talked about or looked past what this show is beyond our P3R playthrough. We have not discussed how it might fit into those plans. I imagine if we're both playing it this fall, maybe we do like a bonus episode on our thoughts of it to start. We'll figure it out and probably talk about it in some way, but there will not be sort of a concurrent playthrough going on. Logistically, it's just not feasible for us both, unfortunately.
Also, we don't know when it starts.
That's
right?
True. Yeah, I don't really know the calendar makeup of it in general.
So we're going to figure it out. But I definitely think that, I have interest in it, and just personally, and we'll probably be playing it. And I think if Jonathan and I both have enough time to really dig into it during the busy fall, like we'll probably, bonus episode seems like right place for that, right?
Yeah, that feels pretty obvious, pretty like direction we're going to go. But yeah, I wouldn't expect sort of probably like weekly updates or something about how our playthrough, unless I'm just so enraptured by it at the same time. Who knows? We'll see. But
who knows?
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. But as of right now, no concurrent sort of planned things. So don't want to set real expectations.
like, this is not to complain because I enjoy doing this podcast, but this podcast takes enough time, right? Like, we can stick with one at a time, I think.
It's no small task. So yeah, I think doing two, just a little bit out of the realm of possibility for us at this moment. But we are excited that so many other people are excited enough to put it as their name, and are looking forward to this. There's definitely a lot of interest and possibility here, so I'm looking forward to talking about it. But yeah.
Yeah, and for anyone curious why it's relevant, Metaphor is by the game director of Persona series, right? Or at least P5?
The director and I believe some of the other leads. I forget the exact roles they took, forgive me.
Yeah, they kind of handed the reins down of Persona to the next generation and went off and made this other thing that is very Persona-like in that it has a calendar and it has some form of relationship building, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's why people are bringing it up in conversation with Persona. I also think it's hysterical because Shin Megami Tensei made Persona as a spin-off, and now Persona is getting a spin-off series that's like, it's beautiful.
It
it's
just
wonderful.
keeps growing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that this is the thought in my head, but this is just because I watch Big Brother and it's always on during the commercials. It's like how they're doing a third, or a second spinoff from The Big Bang Theory, but this spinoff is from young Sheldon.
That is actually pretty, yeah, Persona is the young Sheldon of JRPGs. Thank you, Jonathan.
Classic. Happy to bring it all back to TV in that way. I mean, that was back in the day that, like, Happy Days is a spinoff that most people don't think about. Mork and Mindy, I think, spun off from Happy Days, which was a spinoff itself. It's great. TV's so weird. I'm glad games are like it now.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, all that important information about Mork and Mindy and young Sheldon aside, we do have stuff to talk about this week, but before we get in there, Tom, we have a pop quiz to answer.
I do. Yes, we do.
But what was the question?
The question was, during the full moon, you're in Polonia Mall, and you can go into the alley where the Velvet Room door is, but the Velvet Room door is not there because it's the dark hour. Or I guess that's not the reason, because the dark hour has the Velvet Room door in Tartarus. It's just not there. Elizabeth is doing something else. And I asked, what is behind the Velvet Room door when it's not there? Or I guess when it is there too. But what's behind the Velvet Room door was the question. Did we get any answers? I assume there's going to be at least a couple people just making wild guesses here.
Tom, the thing is, we got perhaps one of my favorite round of guesses.
Okay.
So I suppose the two that feel like legitimate guesses. Q Erotic, and before you answer, because I actually don't remember. I missed this, so I forget.
Okay.
Q Erotic on YouTube guessed just a brick wall behind there. And then from the Patreon, Sable guessed another door.
Okay. That is the correct answer.
Okay. So another door is what's correct?
Yes. So the correct answer is you're in a hallway of doors, of like service doors, and there's just another one of those doors with two bushes on either side. It's basically, the answer is nothing, and I was half messing with everyone.
I mean, that's great, because I think they said they're pretty sure it's a supply closet too. Like, it is just the least conspicuous. It's just so boring. It is such a plain, simple thing.
It's just a dead end alley.
But if I may, for some of the answers that we got,
this is half the reason I asked.
Which I'm loving them. Dan guessed the Pokemon Mew is behind the door, which I love because that feels exactly like it's behind the SSA and you just got to get it to move and then go over there. Yeah, it's right there. Mitch guessed, it's just Igor sitting there saying, I don't know why Elizabeth makes you go through a door every time. I'm always just right here. Excellent.
That's really good.
And then Passel of Hogs over on YouTube said, on the back wall there is a poster of the 2007 Foo Fighters album, Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace, which would be incredible.
Oh, man. Yeah, those are good answers. Thank you. Thank you, loyal listeners.
Thank you to everyone for a good laugh and a good chuckle that I had as I first read those, and as Tom did as well. It's great. I love these.
So that's the answer. Is anybody seen UHF? The Weird Al movie from a million years ago?
I've never seen it, no.
Then I'm never. This is such a rabbit hole. I'm just not even gonna go down.
Oh yeah, because that's stopped us before every time.
Anybody who knows that, it's a Wheel of Fish situation. That's all I'll say. and the people who know will know. We can move on now.
Okay. Well,
you could just YouTube Wheel of Fish UHF and you'll see the clip I'm talking about.
Do I have to safe search on or
no?
All right, fair enough. Well, also Francis guessed just a wall and a dead end. So in the wheelhouse as Q Erotic was. It's yeah. Well, thank you to everyone who wrote in. Thank you for making our weeks with those wonderful guesses. And speaking of our weeks, let's get into them because we have quite a bit to discuss this week. As I mentioned, the dates are 8th through the 14th. We have a lot of story to discuss, a lot of free time, so we're going to be moving through it all. Do want to, before we jump in, obviously if you've played the game before, you will know this, but if you haven't played the game and are just listening to us describe our times, thank you. And also, just in general, because we'll be covering these topics, we are going to, sort of as a content warning, going to be getting into some of the pretty heavy topics this week, which kind of relate to self-harm, and things of that nature. So, we are going to be talking about scenes related to that, characters that's depicted with. Suicidal ideation is also involved here. So just want to put out a little bit of a warning. We will be digging into that stuff a little bit this week. Understand it can be a lot for people. If it's too much to listen to us talk about it, I totally understand. We'll be back next week. But yeah, just want to make sure we put that out there before we jump in because it gets heavy this week.
Yes. I also will say, I don't think we'll be digging massively deep into it.
That's fair.
From my, not that means you can take it. I'm not saying anything like that, right? I'm just saying, I don't think we're going to be spending 10, 15 minutes digging into that sort of,
no,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all.
But it will come up. So
yes.
Just want to give people warning as we get into this week, which begins with September 8th. Most importantly, I think the biggest news of this week, there's a special beef bowl going on during the fall that you get told about as you get to school. So
yeah, and just new products in general. There's finally new things at the computer store.
Yes. I thought the game reminded you. I remember you asking me, and I'm like, I think you'll know when to go.
It would be crazy if they didn't. I don't know. It just seems like that would, but I guess they don't really with the weapons. So I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because that would get you into the habit, but needing to go to the URL store isn't a thing you should need to get into a habit to do. So
right. So instead, a creepy man at a club texts you somehow.
Hey, you want some of my codes, kid? Why do you have my number?
It's not even codes. It's literally just URLs written on a piece of paper.
Yeah. What a weird racket to run in 2009.
And one of them is the link to the forum for your school. You paid a dude in a club $50 for the link to your own school's forum website.
No one ever said we were good with money.
That's true. I am friends with Tanaka.
Yeah. Yeah, we gave that guy 40,000 yen just to talk to him.
Yeah.
Not great.
It's not paid off.
Anyway, let's keep going with the week. We do get right into some story stuff when it comes to Junpei and Chidori, continuing with that saga as we kind of left off with last week. I guess that was kind of one of the biggest hanging threads we had going on. We dig right in with Junpei coming in to visit. He wants to talk to her. We learn, hasn't really said a word to anyone. He's telling them that he can't get her out of his head, no matter how much kind of is going on here. Obviously there was a bit of a struggle between the two of them, but he is still really focused on making sure she's okay and wants to connect with her and make sure she's doing well. He talks to her kind of about her drawing and all that stuff, and she starts to say a couple words.
Right.
She's making slow progress here, but she won't talk to, I think at this point, Akihiko or Mitsuru haven't been able to get anything out of her. So we're seeing a little progress there. She kind of talks about how she's not sure, her drawings don't really mean much. She's just doing it. And as they're talking about her drawing, they realize her arm is bleeding and that's happened before. So we kind of realize that this is something that's happening repeatedly. The implication here is that she's harming herself as she goes. Everyone kind of freaks out because they thought they had gotten everything sharp out of the room. It didn't happen. And he tries to plead with her to not keep doing this to herself, to not hurt herself in this way. And he doesn't want to see that happen to her. But they send Junpei away as the doctor comes, and it kind of gets unresolved at that point.
Yeah, and the other part of this is that they say that she heals super fast, right? So
yes.
Her part of her persona is that she has healing magic, which is really grim, right? That she's harming herself and then just healing it away is sort of almost more upsetting
Yes,
than if it was just her harming herself. It's like, it's almost like she has the ability to just kind of keep doing it without worrying about it. I don't know. It's very unsettling in that sense.
Without the repercussion of what that could lead to, she's able to just
Yeah.
keep healing herself, and it creates this awful cycle for her that also minimizes what she's doing to herself in a way.
Yeah, in a larger sense, because we see a lot of scenes this week between Junpei and Chidori. It keeps coming up. In a broader sense, rather than picking apart this as it develops, it's a very interesting relationship that buds throughout this week, where Junpei is very clearly exceptionally smitten with Chidori, and Chidori only opens up to him, is very hostile to start about, like, I didn't ever want you to worry about me. I didn't ask you to get me this notebook or whatever later. And, is very sort of like, why do you even care about me? But also is opening up to him and clearly likes his presence there to some extent. So there's this very real relationship building between the two where they clearly do like each other, but are so at opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of, like, both Strega and S.E.E.S, but then also just, like, what's going on with them. And it's a very complex sort of relationship, and I'm glad that it is existing, because I was worried when we immediately got to her betraying him that it was just going to be like, oh, never mind, this relationship doesn't exist. And it's not that. It's that it's actually more complicated than I thought it was going to be, which is cool. I'm excited to see it continue and where it goes and what that means for the overall story.
No, absolutely. To your point, it is ongoing, so I'm also going to, not say too much, because even by the end of this week, this storyline isn't resolved. But we're seeing that evolution here, and I think, to your point, it is really great because you do see a world where this could have just been, she was evil all along, he hates her now, the end. But that's not what this is going forward, is trying to... You're seeing sort of the difference between someone who is just really wants to be loved and is willing to put all that love out there in the world, and so quickly, like, in the hopes that it'll be reciprocated, and then someone else who I think is showing they want to be loved but doesn't know how to take that in. Mm-hmm. And there is that struggle going on here that is very real and very honest to how it is for a lot of people. So it is, I think, fascinating to see it, as you said, develop over this week.
Yeah, it's also just cool to see a more genuine side of Junpei, who's not trying to just impress somebody. He's being very real with who he is and admitting things that we'd only seen him admit in private previously. And it seems good for him to have this person that he trusts and trusts him to some extent. Yeah,
no, I think we've gotten some comments, and I definitely see that, because I felt this way initially at first too, where I didn't really like Junpei, especially when he started to be mean to the other people in the group just because he wasn't the leader. Like, there is that sort of annoyance that comes with that. But it is very clearly what we're dealing with here is someone who really struggles with how they view themselves and really just has this strong desire to be liked by other people and needing validation there.
I'm impressed by how deep the character is, I think, because RPGs like this, like big party RPGs, have a tendency to lean on tropes. We've talked about this already. And those tropes can be very stereotypical, which there's nothing, again, we've talked about this, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but it's really cool to see that a lot of his stereotype tropes were not full misdirects, but, like, had causes that we are now digging into of, like, oh, he's behaving that way because of the way he sees himself and because of these relationships with these people and not knowing his place in the world. And I think a lot of games don't give their characters that nuance necessarily.
No, absolutely. I think nuance is the right way to put it, and I appreciate how deep it's getting. It's really great to see. But to your point, we have more of that to go through this week, so we'll keep going through here. We do get right into our afternoon, what did you do?
I hung out with the dog.
Hell yeah, me too.
let me just tell you what this week is mostly. I said to you before, Jonathan, that like before we started recording, I think I only did like maybe 2 or 3 social link things this entire week, because this week was Koromaru and Shinji and a little bit of Ken all week. It was just all those side events or those side things and side stories and non-social link things pretty much the whole time.
That was my hope, because I was like, hey, this stuff is optional. There's a chance he doesn't do all this, but I need to refresh my memory in case he does, because it is worth talking about. And I'm glad you did. So we're probably on the same page.
I don't think I hung out with a single non-S.E.E.S member this week.
So I spent the whole week with Suimitsu. I maxed him out, and then we just kept hanging out because he's such a Anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there someday.
Let's keep going. So yeah, we hung out with Koromaru, which is, what was this one? This was the one, oh yeah, where you find out he's the town watchdog.
Yeah, with the little kids, they're chased away by the evil dog, and they have a dog off of who can scare away the other dog and who is more alpha dog. It's very cute. Yeah. It's
adorable. And we learned why he likes sitting outside is literally because he likes being there if people need him.
Yeah. It's a sweet little just, hey, Koromaru is really great and a really good dog.
Very, very smart boy.
So good, he gets your courage up.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you get after this one.
And guess what happened to me?
You ranked up?
Max!
Oh, my God. Oh, you're
Rank
so
6
far
courage.
ahead. Oh. That means you can start hanging out with someone.
You know why? Yeah, I know. And you know why I got ranks? I'm far ahead. Because I did all those film festivals.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say because I just studied all the time. Yeah. I forgot about the film festivals. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got rank 6 courage already. I'm maxed out on that now.
Amazing. Well, good on you. I'm excited to hear what you do with that courage. Does it make you badass? Is that what it is?
Yes, that's the badass one.
Congrats.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you in this journey. What did you do with all that courage in the evening?
I went and got ramen with Ken, which was another one of these exclamation point, hey, maybe go hang out with this person one.
Yes.
And that's the one where you just check in and see if Ken is fine. And then he's like, I'm good, but I'm hungry. Let's go get ramen. And there's some subtext here of like, he knows Shinji comes to this place to eat ramen and wanted to go here to snoop on him, basically, is like, none of this is spoken out loud. It's not explicitly said Shinji, but you can read between the lines if you know these other things, right? About if you've been following along with his character. I went to this ramen place 3 times this week.
Oh, yeah, I probably did too. Yeah.
And every time the guy went, 2 specials.
2 specials, please.
Yeah. So, because the notable thing with this interaction is that he says that the ramen was delicious as you leave, and then you walk ahead and he stays behind and goes, no, don't let yourself think like that. And I don't understand why he can't think ramen is delicious. I think this must be another, like, he doesn't want to be a little kid thing. But I don't perceive thinking ramen is delicious as being a little kid. I don't know.
Sure.
He doesn't want to like the ramen.
Whatever reason he has, we do also get, I think, the other important half of the scene is after you leave and you run into one of his classmates, and they invite him. They're trying to get him involved in soccer. He says no, he passes on it. The kid kind of gets bummed, but the mom is like, don't bother him about it. It's fine. He kind of talks to you about the idea of, I'm already committed to doing so many things.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away from the commitments I've already made. And you kind of get the sense, I think to your point of weirdness, of a kid not knowing how to quite be a kid.
Yeah, it's a very big theme with Ken, is that he's, as often happens with young people in traumatic events and losing parental figures, right? When young, they have to grow up fast. They feel this pressure to be an adult quickly. And I think that's definitely happened with him, where he needed to mature quickly, and so he's not letting himself be a kid. He is drinking coffee black, even though he hates it, right? Even though he would like it with milk and sugar, and he's not going to play soccer because he has to do important S.E.E.S things. It's very sad, actually.
Yeah, no, it's you're getting a good portrait of someone who you can see that they're losing their childhood in a way, but they think they're doing what is right.
Yeah.
And so that's where we end up with a kid who doesn't let himself enjoy ramen. But anyway, you do that with him and you get academics. So
yeah. And guess what?
Did you really?
No, I'm kidding.
I was going to be like, hold on now. That does not work out correctly. Well, we'll find out if you rank up anywhere else during the week. But until then, let's move on to September 9th, where we get stopped in the morning. Junpei apologizes to us for not being around. He's just so worried about Chidori. Nice little just check in there.
Very specifically, he says he can't leave her alone, but he can't tell you why, or he won't tell you why, which is like he doesn't want her to hurt herself, but then also doesn't want to, oust her in a weird way, talking about it with other people, basically.
Yeah, which is, again, I think we're seeing a different side of Junpei, and it's nice to see that. Moving on from there, I think it goes right into the free time of the day. So what'd you do during the day?
Today was Koromaru Day.
Oh,
so
fun.
I hung out with Koromaru again, and in the evening I brushed him.
Oh,
so I spent the whole day with the dog, and this was this event was the one where a lady recognizes him and is so happy that he has, a home now.
Yes.
And then Koromaru feels guilty because he turned that lady down earlier before he had completed his unfinished business, and so you go apologize to the lady. It's like it's just one of those amazing situations where this is a normal dog who does not have any special capabilities or intelligence, but also is just sentient.
Yeah. Oh, pretty much. The problem with Koromaru, the struggle of his stories, is that he's too good a dog. That is at the heart of his story, is he is too good a boy.
It's true.
And that's why everyone loves him. I didn't hang out with him today, though, actually. I hung out with Hiraga and got him to rank 5.
Oh, the art guy.
The art club, yes.
I hung out with him so little, you said Hiraga. I did not know who you meant.
That's fair. And then I
think
read
I did
books
that 2 weeks ago also.
I think you did. It's okay. It happens. And then I read books with Igus and got some charm in the evening.
Yeah. Cool.
We get to September 10th, where we get a question that you definitely do not need a guide to look up, I hope.
Yeah, the English class questions, where it's probably harder if you are reading this in Japanese.
If it's not an idiom that you have normally, yes. So the spill the beans question, I felt pretty good. I didn't have to double check a guide for this one. I confidently went correct. And it worked out.
Nice. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Moving from there, though.
Whoa.
What?
What do you get for
you get your
correctly
charm?
Answering? And guess what happened?
You ranked up your charm.
Max 6 charm.
Oh my god. So now what are you, suave, or what is it?
I don't remember.
Handsome
what
little
it is.
Boy? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a handsome little boy.
Yeah.
So I got literally charm and courage up to 6 this week.
Okay. Okay.
I literally did not expect this at all, but I realized that going to the movies 2 weeks in a row, basically every time they were available, just supercharged those stats, I guess.
You're good to go. Yeah. Wow.
So now I only have academics to get up.
It's a long road, my friend.
I know. I'm bummed.
You'll want to get there, trust me.
Yeah.
But we do, after you rank up, we get a scene again with Junpei trying to cheer Chidori up. They're talking about nicknames. He brought her a sketchbook. Mitsuru and Akihiko, I really like this. They're having this cute little moment together, and they're watching from the side with apprehension. They're not a fan of this, but they know that it's working to get her to soften up.
It's very funny that they're just sort of like voyeurs in the corner being like, all right, you can be friends. This whole thing is really weird because they essentially have kidnapped this woman.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like ostensibly they are holding her because she attacked them. So it's not like they're holding her without reason. She is a hostile force to them in some way. But also, they're not in a prison. They just have her in a hospital and are questioning her every day for a week or whatever it is.
Yeah, and, there's no next of kin being called here, or I guess next of gang that you go into another world with happening.
Yeah.
So it's a little weird, but yeah.
It is weird. It's very weird, but I don't know. The Kirijo group's hardcore.
Well, this scene gets pretty crazy because we do,
It does.
after Shinji appears asking how she's doing and kind of what's going on, they're just glad she's finally talking, but suddenly she seems pained. There's just this out of nowhere burst of anger or upsetness or whatever. And we then suddenly see what we learn is her persona hanging over her, essentially trying to choke her and trying to hurt her. Shinji runs over and injects Chidori with something, and her persona disappears. We learn that this was essentially her persona, going berserk because she can't fully control it. And so she's someone who takes suppressants to keep it from killing her.
Right.
Which ties back into what we learned last week.
Yes, it ties into what Takayo was saying about the personas killing people, killing their owners, and it also ties into those drugs we saw Shinji get from Strega a million years ago in a scene, and that kind of gets discussed very quickly with this scene with Aki next.
Yes, yeah. Just quickly going through here, Junpei tells her how worried he was she was going to die. She's like, I don't really fear death that much.
Right.
Says it just means you don't wake up tomorrow. That is her kind of viewpoint of where life is. But he doesn't care that she's not afraid. He's like, I don't want you to die. That should matter right now. And she doesn't really quite know how to handle this, I think, as the scene ends.
Yeah, it's a really interesting scene because you learn a lot more about Chidori, who is very clearly, unwell in certain ways in her state of mind, and in distress in a lot of ways, and doesn't care about her own life, and that's very sad. And you have Junpei who's saying, like, it almost looks like this is Junpei saying I don't want you to die is like the first time she's considered that her dying would matter to someone else. Almost is kind of the tone of it.
Absolutely. And it's reflected as the week goes on, but before we get there, we do get, as you mentioned, Shinji and Akihiko kind of have this confrontation afterwards because Shinji leaves, Aki chases after him, asks him about these drugs, kind of wants to know what's going on there. They talk about how the side effects of it are really gnarly. Akihiko is like, are you taking these? And Shinji won't say. He just wants to remain mum because he's kind of like, it doesn't matter what you think about what I'm doing. I'm just going to do what I do.
Yeah.
And so Akihiko punches him.
Right in the jaw.
Which decks him.
You forget that he's a, high-ranked boxer that would...
Champion.
That would hurt a lot.
Oh, yeah. And you also learn more of their tragic backstory.
Yes. The orphanage that they lived in together burned down 10 years ago. What's that? What other things happened 10 years ago, I wonder?
Let's see. It was 1999, so Y2K was really big. See-through technology was really cool.
Y2K burned down their orphanage?
The villain all along. Y2K.
This is... I don't know if this is like too on the nose or just what they have to do, but every time they're like, something happened 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, the Kirijo group did it. Like, great. So yeah, orphanage burned down 10 years ago, and we learn Akihiko's kind of trauma, which is that his sister died in the orphanage and he couldn't save her, and he wasn't strong enough to push through the adults to go in and save her, and so that's why he wants to be strong, so he can never be held back like that again.
And Shinji kind of is like, you got to stop doing this. You got to move on. He doesn't want him to keep dwelling on the past, to keep living this goal based on this tragedy that happened to him, wants him to just keep going. And Shinji is even like, there's something I have to do and take responsibility for. Again, vaguely, and then moves on. But he tells Akihiko not to worry about things and just do what he thinks is right.
Yeah, and he says he doesn't have to take the drugs anymore, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, he says that he, like, doesn't need to suppress his persona anymore, so doesn't need to take it. And
yeah.
So that's an interesting, like, he was suppressing it for some reason, and we don't know why, and now isn't.
But more importantly, Elizabeth has new requests. So, moving on.
Yeah, I did some of those, too.
What were they? I'm trying to even think. I don't know if
you
I
have
did
to get, like, a fruit knife from Shinji.
Yes.
And there's a couple things like that. You got to go find a mannequin.
Oh, yeah. I forgot
That's
about
one of
that.
the ones. I hadn't done the finding the school anthem one. It's funny that there are a couple requests that are basically just like, go click every door in the school until someone gives you an item.
Is that the CD one?
Yeah, that's the CD one.
So
which
that was
brings
the
up
one.
Gekkokan Boogie, which was one of my quiz answers.
That was weeks ago. I had said there was a request that really bothered me. It was that one because I didn't think to do that at the time of just go click around. I was like, oh, surely this is like the other ones. And an exclamation point will appear one day and I'll just go have to do that thing.
Yeah.
And I never looked it up on my first playthrough because I was like, surely it's going to show up. And then I was at the end of the game and it never showed up.
Yeah, I only found out because my wife is also playing, and I was like, I wonder how you get this one. And she was like, oh, I already got that. I was like, what? What?
All right, then.
What do you mean?
Well,
Yeah.
Glad you had the help.
Yes.
It would have been very frustrating if we got to the end of this and you're like, so how's that CD work? What did you do?
But it would have been accurate.
What did you do during the afternoon?
I hung out with Yukari.
Congratulations, you've begun.
Thank you, because I have enough charm to talk to her. I don't think we should spoil this, but obviously it's not a spoiler that once you get these certain social stats up, you can start having actual social links with Fuka, Yukari, and Mitsuru, depending on the stat. And from what I can tell, it's like a normal social link. You go and do social link stuff and have conversations and then get points. And so, yeah, I got Yukari as a thing, and it was a cute little conversation. I'm excited to have her as an option now to hang out with.
I'm excited to talk about it as you go through all of it. But until then,
Yeah.
I hung out at the art club and got Hiraga to rank 6.
Cool. Okay. You're blazing through that one.
Moving along. Again, it was one I neglected last time, so I feel like I have an impetus just to give it a go this time and see how I do.
Sure.
But you get through there, you get to the evening. Tartarus is now open. You get that phone call, so you can go back into Tartarus if you'd like to, but there's a lot going on this week, so who knows if you did.
There is, yeah. No, I didn't go to Tartarus this week. This evening I gardened with Shinji because I'm just focusing. Yeah, I'm just focusing those. I'm really prioritizing getting those characteristics, especially with the people I really like using, like Ken, Koromaru, Shinji, I guess, people like that, Yukari.
Oh, yes. That reminds me, including using Shinji, because I had talked about this last week. I think you did some of the time-sensitive requests, did you, with Elizabeth?
I think so.
You might have gotten a weapon, one of my favorite weapons in the game.
Oh, that weapon might come up in a pop quiz later.
Exciting. I won't say any more then. We're on September 11th. In the morning, Yukari asks why we think Shinji came back into the group, just to kind of keep that thread going of what's going on here with these older guys. We'll learn more about them this week. We do get a question on the Hermetica from Edogawa. We get another classic Edogawa lecture.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's favorite time to go to the bathroom.
I went into Edogawa's office because it was like, it sounds like another lecture is available. And I got in and he was like, I got a new one for you. And I was like, no, wait, and never mind.
I've had enough. We're good. I'll come back. Oof.
Yeah.
Well, you get that. And then what did you do today, I wonder?
I hung out with Shinji again.
You got some ramen?
Yeah, I got 2 more specials with Shinji.
Well, because he promised he would get this meal, so you don't want him to go back on his word.
Yeah, he said you don't go back on your word, and he told you he'd treat you after you. I can't remember what it was. You just like bring him the slip from Mitsuru, and he's like, "I owe you one," and you're like, "What? Okay, sure."
Basically,
ramen.
Yeah. Well,
but then you end up
Yeah.
So how in depth do we want to get with these? Because there's a lot of juicy story to talk about here with Shinji, but also I know they're technically optional.
I say let's talk about them because I do think I might be wrong. Someone out there can correct me. I do believe these are things that if you get to them in a little bit further from here, like if you do these next week or whatever, I think you're still okay. Like same with the Koromaru ones. I think there are reoccurrences to get to.
Yeah. So let's talk about it then. So this one is that you get ramen with him and nothing really happens, and then you run into Mitusuru, and she tries really hard to convince him to come back to school. And the sort of key backstory you get here is that she says it was her fault for getting them involved in S.E.E.S at all. And he says, don't do that. Don't blame yourself. Everything that's wrong is only because I didn't know what I was capable of, which is real cryptic. But we're starting to piece together, if you want to read between the lines, of like what's going on with him and what happened with him and maybe Ken, like you can start drawing lines, even though I don't know the specifics of what happened yet. I have assumptions I can make. And Mitsuru says she won't force him to go back to school, and then Aki shows up and says something stupid, and they all get mad and leave.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, they're talking, there's clearly a lot left unsaid between Mitsuru and Shinji as it goes on, but she is blaming herself, as you said. Shinji is like, it's good to see that you're like not a lone wolf anymore. There's growth here happening, but he's accepted where his life is going and doesn't really want her to like ask him to keep doing this because he's made up his mind. And then Akihiko comes and basically I think insults Mitsuru.
Yeah.
In a way that I
sort
think
of insults both of them.
Insults both of them in a way that he thinks is like cute and playful, but they're like, not the vibe, my guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so she leaves and he's like, what did I do?
Yeah, it's this conversation also goes along with the trend of like, is Mitsuru forcing people into S.E.E.S and that whole conversation. And Shinji very adamantly is like, no, but also recognizes that she's growing by not trying to force her desires onto him.
Yes, yeah. The fact that she is willing to accept if he's not going to come back is growth.
Yes.
And it makes you more charming to witness.
Yeah. Too bad I didn't need it.
I do. What did you do in the evening?
Again, continuing the trend of not hanging out with anybody who's not on my team, I watched a detective movie with Ken.
Me too.
What social stat do you get for that? I don't care.
Courage.
I
you don't care anymore. You're done.
I didn't even write it down.
He's so laissez-faire now. He's like, whatever. I'm just playing a game. It doesn't matter. At this level, who cares?
Yeah. No, so that was just, again, I'm just trying to get those characteristics.
Yeah, cool. Well, on to September 12th. You get a call from Elizabeth. There's a new person in Tartarus. And it might be someone you know.
Yeah.
So you might want to go save them.
There's an acquaintance in Tartarus is irreversible damage could be done if you don't save them. I went to the board and I checked who it was. It's Bunkichi.
Yeah.
The old man.
You want to save him. Speaking of, we're probably not going to have time to talk about them this week, but hopefully we have time in the future if they're not gone forever.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Tom, if you don't save him, we're never going to talk about the old couple.
That is a wild choice that this game makes.
Yeah.
Does that also mean that you can't hang out with them until you save them?
I think so.
Because he's in Tartarus.
Yeah, I think that would be the case. I think it's blocked off.
That's so sad. His wife.
Well.
There's part of me, because I've maxed him out, that wants to just not save him and see what happens.
Wow.
Maybe I'll save and do that. And
you could, yeah.
Like, I know that's cruel, but, like, I'm just very curious.
No, I get it.
It's cool to me that is even a thing this game would allow.
It is an interesting choice, because also it is that thing of, oh, maybe I should go in earlier than to save them, not knowing if more people will show up in Tartarus, all that sort of thing. It definitely weighs on you more. I think it's a very smart choice. And
it's also okay overall because it's not hard to save people in Tartarus, right? You just basically just got to make time to go in. And you're doing a thing you were going to do pretty much.
Exactly. Unless you are not playing the game that you are playing, you'll probably run into him. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, it's a fun little call to shake things up as we go into the day.
Indeed.
We then get into class where Ono is just super excited to cover the Sengoku era.
Yep.
So you can
skips around
awake.
again.
Yep. I stayed awake to get some knowledge.
Me too.
Nice.
Because I need that one still.
The only one you need. And then
I won't be so shitty about this after this week.
Oh no,
I promise.
Please continue to rub it in. I've been there, so trust me, I get it. I'm really excited to talk about these social links with you. I'm sure you're going to prioritize these, so we'll definitely, I assume, talk
Probably.
about them. Yeah.
I mean, that's the unfortunate thing is I have like Chihiro and Yuko and all these other people to hang out with, and I'm looking at them next to Fuka and Yukari, and I'm like, why would I hang out with them anymore?
You're literally the meme of the guy who sees the girl passing while he's walking with his girlfriend. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
And I loved Yuko. Love. I like Yuko.
You were going to propose to her.
She's a nice girl. I don't mean to... No, I'm just playing.
We move on to another Junpei and Chidori scene. It's just the two of them there. They won't give her evoker at this point. Obviously, we see there's some issues going on with her persona, but they can't do that. He asks her about her cut that she has. She's not drawing today. And this is where she's pretty withdrawn, but, slightly answering him. And this is, I think, where we get the first sign of those really, powerfully and directly the healing powers that she has, because she heals the wilted flowers on her bedside, because Junpei's like, oh, I should go get you some new, I can go get you new ones afterward. And she's like, no, it's fine. And just does that.
Yeah, it's very cool.
She describes it specifically as she gave them a little of her energy, which I think is an interesting way to put it. And she talks about how she doesn't really remember much from her childhood other than being surrounded by white. And
yeah, hospital, asylum backstory of some kind, maybe.
Yeah, it's left unclear what she means by that at this point, but we know
experimented upon as a child. That's sort of the vibe of the implication there.
Sure. All we know is she hates hospitals, but again, this sort of and I appreciate this because she is indirectly expressing that it matters to her that someone is showing her affection and care, because she doesn't know how to express it directly. She says she doesn't mind it right now, though, because he's been coming to see her, which obviously means a lot.
She likes his visits, which is also good that we get that confirmation and that it's not just him obnoxiously pestering this woman.
No, yes, this is not a case of Junpei being the horn dog that he is. There is a mutual, at least, appreciation that care is happening here. And so he's like, I'll see you every day then. That's fine with me. Yeah.
There's also this discussion with Junpei where she says, oh, you have powers too, right? And he's like, he's really depressed that without his power, he wouldn't be anybody, and he wouldn't have a reason to live, he says, which kind of strikes her too, which is very sad. It's obviously he's still so insecure, and it's really interesting to see that play out with this person who isn't insecure. She's sort of past that, if that makes sense.
No, totally, it does. Yeah. There's a clear difference there, even if there is a similarly shared, I think, isolation or loneliness to both of them. It's coming from different places.
Yeah, exactly.
And so after we have this beautiful little moment between the two of them, it's free time. So what did you do?
I hung out with Fuka. I got a Fuka social link.
Nice. That was your first one?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So now I have Yukari and Fuka both at 1.
Awesome. Well, I haven't forgotten my friend, so I hung out with Yuko and got her to rank 6.
I have abandoned them. I'm sorry. No, I want to go back to them at some point. I just, I'm really excited to be able to hang out with my team.
No, that's fair. I totally get it. It is frustrating in the way of obviously I'm endeared to these characters. I wish I could have started these earlier, but I do also like the kind of idea of you were just thrown together. You weren't automatically friends, and it might actually take some people time to warm up to each other.
Right.
Certainly by now, you would hope, but here we are. What'd you do in the evening?
That evening I cooked with Shinji. And
Nice.
you ask him to teach you to cook, and he teaches you how to make some stuff.
Did you get a skill or not yet?
No, that was rank 2 for that.
Okay.
Or the second of 3 for that one.
Cool. Well, I got Tanaka to rank 6.
Hey.
Because why not hang out with our wonderful friend? I think even during this, he was, slight spoilers, but he was like, your money's really paying off, huh? All these hangouts are really worth it. And I'm like, no, they're not. But all right.
Yeah, he's a scumbag. I'm at 9 with him, and ever since I learned about characteristics, I haven't gone back to him or Mutatsu, I don't think.
I mean, you'll only need to once. You'll be fine. I'm not worried about you.
There'll be a gap night at some point, and it'll be fine.
Exactly. And then, ooh, the dark hour has begun.
Yeah.
Pharos is here. Ooh. And
so they got cameras on you in bed, right?
I was like, where is this going? Yeah, they're supposed to be cameras.
Does he show up on them?
Good question.
This is a discussion I had while playing. I don't know.
Trying to think. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, maybe he doesn't. Or maybe I don't know. No, the cameras, I was like, maybe they don't work in the dark hour, but I'm like, no, they literally do. We've seen them work.
Yeah, we've seen them work. That technology doesn't work during the dark hour thing. They really slip that in there to explain like a couple things and then ignore it whenever they want.
But the cameras in all of the control rooms still works.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, very much so. Anyway, Pharos appears to check in, talks about time having passed. Many things have changed, but some things will remain the same. Okay, you Susian little guy, what are we doing here? What is this?
It reminds me of the Sphinx from Mystery Men.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It just speaks in like nonsensical riddles.
Yeah, it's very, very much that. He just kind of starts going off about how the tower has been on his mind a lot lately. He hopes our relationship, or he asks, like, is our relationship going to stay the same or evolve? Who knows?
Yeah,
But
we'll always be friends.
we'll always be good friends. And then leaves. So,
This definitely, I mean, this you get the rank up to 6 with this, and it was a less random one, because I think the thing I took from this is that it's seeding in that Pharos is somebody that is going to matter. He has a role in this that has not been, like, we knew that to some extent, but it's a larger role is going to be here because he knows about the tower. He has memories of it to some degree. He wants to be your friend forever, which means he's probably evil, like there's
yeah,
things
no
like
one wants
that.
to be a friend forever and is good. That's never happened.
Oh, that's psycho behavior. Come on.
At best, a couple years, and then you're out.
Yeah,
come on.
Then you upgrade. It's like an iPhone.
Obviously it's a funny thing where, we have these intermittent things, so it keeps him top of mind. But he's really not been touched on. It definitely is.
No.
Yeah.
He's been very sort of just at the full moon reminder guy. And so I'm interested to know how they start. Like, I'm fine with it. I like this sort of thing because I want to know more about him. I want him to start playing his role at some point.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out maybe at some point in the future, or maybe he's actually in Persona 4 and it's a big cliffhanger. Who's to say?
Jose is nonsense, so there could
That's
be
fair.
nothing with this, and it would not surprise me.
Oh, Jose. Moving on to a day where Jose doesn't appear, September 13th. You get amazing commodities in the morning, as you do.
Yep.
And then you have a day, and I wonder what you did.
So, I just realized my plants were done this day,
Nice.
and I got to put the taiyaki in the fridge.
It's a big day.
I didn't check it the next day, though. I just realized. I gotta go back.
Might have expired. Who knows how that fridge works? It's a mystery.
Yeah, it's true. I know I hung out with Shinji this day.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the one where do you do this? No, you do the next one at ramen. There's so many ramens this week. He gives you a form to turn in that is to extend his leave of absence from school rather than go back to school like Mitsuru wanted. And this is so funny to me because he's like, I don't want to get expelled because if I get expelled, then I can't join the extracurricular club that is S.E.E.S. It's like, really? That's the thing? That if you get expelled, you can't fight shadows anymore.
This thing that the chairman of the school is just secretly letting happen, he's going to be like, well, nothing, my hands are, I can't do anything here. My hands are tied.
You're not a student.
Oh, well, I just have this other little kid and a dog here and a robot, but it's fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think the most interesting part of this in terms of the character moment of it is after Shinji leaves, Akihiko's surprised and appreciates how much he trusts you already and says, like, that shouldn't be discounted. The fact that this guy has warmed up to you as much as he has so quickly means something with Shinji.
Right, yeah. And that's also good because, like, Shinji's very cold. Not like, he's a nice guy, but he's very sort of stoic. He hides his emotions. So to have somebody who knows him come up and be like, no, this is actually him liking you is nice.
And I guess because you talked about school, you get academics?
Yeah, you know.
In the back alleyway? Sure.
Yeah.
School of life.
Don't worry about it.
You get to the evening, what'd you do?
I made coffee with Ken.
Me too.
For the second time. He's really trying his best to make good coffee, but also simultaneously hates coffee.
Yeah, I wrote down that he sounds like a coffee bro on TikTok basically during this one. Or me when I recently gotten into espresso. So yeah, I felt very seen by this scene. It was good. September 14th, our last day of the week. Here we are.
Last day.
It's almost time for the Culture Festival. As we all know, as we've all been waiting for.
The two big events of September are coming up. The Cultural Festival and a typhoon.
Classic September. We get a question about better halves.
Yes, the soulmate question, yeah.
Again, real easy ones this week. I was on cloud 9.
This is interesting because this is like, this is not the only time this happened this week. I can't remember when else it came up, but it was also brought up. They're starting to seed into the fact that you're probably getting towards the end of some relationships and are dating people, because there's the Chidori Junpei thing that's going on where very clearly they're like starting a relationship of some kind.
Yeah.
But also they're like, hey, it's getting to that season where you might be dating a lady, and they're starting to do, there are little blips here and there about like dating questions or soulmate stuff. And yeah, I like that. I like that they're starting to again tease that stuff.
Yeah, it's cute, especially since I guess it was true in Persona 5 too, but it's like Valentine's Day is so far removed from here. They do have to find ways to put love in the air during all this stuff. So
yeah.
It's cute. But anyway, we get that. And then you have a day. Did you do 2 things with your day?
I did. I was surprised that I could do 2 things with my day.
Me too. I like that they sort of to a certain degree understand you're going to kind of want this payoff here so quickly, and it's worth chaining together. So obviously for those out there who didn't, went to Mitsuru, and
this day also has a ton of lore.
Oh,
this is not optional content.
No, this is again, I guess I'll put
backstory.
I'll put spoiler warnings in case you haven't gotten to it this week, but this is stuff that you absolutely should see playing this game. Mostly I think because we get really cool art that made me go, God damn it, give me that prequel.
Yeah.
Why isn't that the DLC? Give me that DLC where it's a prequel for 30 hours. I'll play that. Anyway, you give Mitsuru the letter.
10 years ago.
What could have happened? You give Mitsuru the letter, as you had been talking with Shinji the day before, and she tells us about the beginning of S.E.E.S, basically.
Yeah.
We
Complete
get this,
with cool photos, like you said.
Yeah, we get this deep dive of her, Akihiko, and Shinji talking about their time together when they first started, how it was like for all of them, getting used to each other as a team, getting to know one another, learning
how much they sucked. They couldn't even get past like the first floor of Tartarus.
Yeah, like just fighting in the entryway, even though it's such a cool badass shot of the 3 of them fighting, it's like, oh, they're in the entry. They can't even get to floor 2. Like, this is child stuff because they're children. It was a few years ago. So you get to see them doing all of this and learning a little bit about how their relationship grew, how they were with each other, and how they, even though they couldn't do that, and exploring now, like that was the dream that they finally achieved. They were still bonding together. And she's so concerned about Shinji and Akihiko as well, but like she's concerned about him for if they're living in the past. You know, they had made this commitment to each other. They all agreed that no matter what, they were all going to graduate together.
No one left behind. So now we know why Mitsuru is pushing so hard.
Yeah. This is coming from, you know, obviously there is this interesting tension here where it is a character who definitely maybe has gotten people into situations a little bit easily without giving them the full picture, but also someone who deeply cares about getting some of these people into that situation because she wants them to be happy of what she perceives, you know, will make them happy, even though she's learning to grow to let them choose their own path. All that to say, you have this big conversation and you don't have to give her the paper.
Yeah, this shocked me.
I love this.
You get to choose. So you can say, wait, I need to correct something on that. Or you can just let her submit it. And I told her to wait because it seemed like the more interesting thing to do.
I think that's really fair.
Sense?
Yeah, I think it is. There's a natural... I do like also that it's not telegraphing it to you of like, whoa, it'd be really great to take this paper back to Shinji. It's just kind of like a... Emotionally, maybe I shouldn't make that choice. So let me try this. Yeah. So you take the paper back, if you did, and you go back to Shinji. Because you still have a day.
Yeah, it didn't take time, this event. I wonder if you didn't... I wonder if you said the second thing, if it would actually take the time up, but who knows?
I don't know. Or does it maybe force you to take it back regardless?
Maybe.
It might be a false choice, but it reads like a real choice. So
yes, it does read like a real choice. Yeah, so then you immediately take the form back to Shinji and get some more bombs at the ramen place.
Quite the big one, because we learn
including 2 specials.
Yeah, 2 specials. They might be the last, because we learned Shinji is not going to live much longer.
That should be the title of our bonus episode podcast. 2 specials. You and me.
You and me. We're the most specialist boys that Mitsuru has ever known.
Yeah, it's true.
And
it's great.
Yeah, you learn that he's not going to live much longer, is what he says. He's been getting by on the meds, but not, you know.
You just breezed over that. He's dying?
Yeah,
he's gonna die?
Let me get through his whole little spiel, because he's gonna die, and he's also, you're like, can't you do anything? And he's like, no, I'm listening. I know what my body's telling me, and my time is pretty much up. So don't worry about me. Don't focus on me right now. Like, go take care of Ken. He's younger. Like, help the kids out. Don't focus on trying to save me and get me back to school, even though that's what Mitsuru wanted. And it's really sad.
Yeah, he said he didn't know his limits and bit off more than he could chew.
Yes.
Which means... spoiler free, the picture I am getting, the thing that I am assuming at this point, is that he lost control of his persona in some way, went ballistic, killed Ken's parents, and then quit S.E.E.S in shame and quit school in shame to hide from what he had done. That is like the rough sort of, again, reading between the lines, not any of this specifically laid out thing that I am assuming. And now Ken has recognized him and wants vengeance. So
whatever the case may be. Learn
and also,
yeah.
Ken thinks he doesn't know, and he does know and is trying to look after Ken. That's the rough sort of... I don't know what's happening.
This is your Charlie Day conspiracy board theory.
Yeah, that's how this whole thing feels, right? Sure. Or at least it's what they are sort of leading you breadcrumbs to believe, and maybe there'll be a twist of some kind.
Sure. Well, whatever that may be, you don't learn about it this week. But you do learn that he is feeling this way pretty strongly about things, so he takes the paper back at the end of all that to say.
Yeah.
And
he wants to set things straight, and he wants to do it himself, and says, I never should have asked you.
Yeah, he realizes...
In a good way.
Yes, yeah. He realizes, like, oh, it was maybe a little cowardly of me to do this. Let me own up to this part of me, especially with what I got going on in my life, because it's a tragedy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You learn all that. You get courage.
Did you?
Oh, my God. Okay. All right. Settle down there.
I told you, after this week, I'm done.
High horse of courage and charm.
Listen, I just got the courage to make those jokes, okay?
I don't. What'd you do in the evening?
I gardened with Shinji.
Nice.
And this was the one I got the characteristic with him for, which is really good. It just gives him the boost of attack and defense right away and the beginning of every fight, which is heck yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to keep going with his because his are good.
The other thing I want to talk about, and you can jump ahead a little bit if you don't want to know, but this is like really minor spoilers just for this little bit of this gardening conversation, is he's like, once you harvest the food, you have to dig up the plant and get rid of it right away because, you don't want to leave it buried there or whatever. And there's this line where you can talk about how, like, he says something along the lines of, like, you can be like, yeah, but now we get to eat the food that the plants gave us. And he says something along the lines of, like, like they can leave something behind even after they're gone that makes the world better. That's nice. And like in context, if I hadn't done this conversation with him already, I wouldn't know that's because he's dying.
Yeah.
And now having done it already, I did that scene and I was like, oh, that's like a really, really subtle nod towards what's going on with him that you could experience way before you do this scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's cool. I love that.
No, totally, because it's like, who knows when you choose to farm with him. It could be
exactly.
weeks or months, and it's like, if you did this now, it would feel very different. But having it all in this context, I think this week is really good at having all of these. It shows the strength of letting you go your own path, but if you do follow the path that it gives you with a lot of these, it's just so interesting to dig into these characters.
Yeah, these scenes are really good, and they're really... Like, the other reason I kind of sort of didn't mind ignoring a lot of social links this week while I did all of these things, because, again, except for Yukari and Fuka, I did no social link stuff this week.
Yeah.
And it's because I care about these characters more, and also, like, unless I'm going for a full completionist, do all the social link things, a lot of these social link stories are not as interesting as any of the stuff that I'm learning in these conversations in these side scenes, right? They're just way more compelling to me. And so I'm so much more motivated to go see those, despite the fact that they're not mechanically getting me as many things or whatever.
Sure. If you're going for the platinum, it's not the ideal way to go.
Yeah.
But if you're invested in these characters, it is, but again, it's also not forcing you to. So if you are more invested in those social links, you have the option to go for those, and that's okay. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I think looking at this whole week in perspective, if you followed everything that we did, to be bouncing between Junpei and Chidori and Shinji, Akihiko, and Mitsuru, getting all of that all at once is like, oh yeah, you were really getting to know this group now.
Yep. It's cool. It's great. I'm really digging it. I'm really digging how much more we're digging into these people.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that was the week.
Yep.
We did it.
Did you say what you did? Did you also?
Oh, I read with Junpei.
Oh, okay. I may have missed that. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I don't think I said it. I was just happy
that gets you some unimportant stat.
Yeah,
anyway,
it didn't
right?
matter. I didn't need it. It wasn't important. It's not like I'm slaving away in the skill mines trying to get up to your level. Tom.
But you got other things, and you're further along with more social links than me. So
all right. Well, I'm trying to go for the trophies actually this time, so that is important to me.
Exactly.
So this week might have been a miss. I'm actually going to keep a save before this week, just in case I need to come back to this point. It's a lot of time. Anyway, that is the week. Looking ahead to the next week, it will be the days of the 15th through the 21st of September. So
another normal week.
Another normal week. We'll go on and see what happens next. But until we do, Tom, what's your pop quiz for this week?
Well, we talked about it a little bit, and this will be a pop quiz that people can go look up themselves in the future. But one of the requests is Elizabeth wants a fruit knife. And you go and talk to Shinji, and you get a fruit knife. And if you give it back to Elizabeth, it's like an heirloom fruit knife from his orphanage. And she's like, oh, I can't keep this, and gives it back to you to give back to him. And B, you get a weapon for him, Jonathan, that you might have mentioned, which is the bus stop sign.
What a weapon.
Yeah. A weapon that anybody who played Persona 5 Strikers with us probably will recognize, because Zenkichi could also fight with a bus stop sign.
Yeah.
Two characters whose weapon was Big Thing.
My favorite kind.
So here's the question, and this might seem like a silly question. I'm not asking you about the bus stop sign, weapon, or how to get it. I told you all that. I told you what he's using. Here's the question. What is the written on the front of the bus stop sign?
Why did I really go into this thinking you were going to softball it? I really thought you were going to be like, what's the weapon? We'll give it to him. We'll just let him have a fun week.
So I will say this. You don't need to go into Tartarus to know this.
That's fair.
But yeah, there's something on the front of the bus stop sign, and I want to know what it is.
Well, if you know what's on the
question.
sign, or if you don't know what's on the sign and you want to make it up, if you want to tell us which Foo Fighters album is on the front of the sign, you can write in over at patreon.com/takeyourtime, over at youtube.com/Dornology, dornology@gmail.com, or you can find us on social. I'm at Dornbush. He's at Tom R. Marks. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget, as always, like it, give it some stars, tell a friend, tell your coworker, tell your therapist about it. My therapist keeps saying, stop talking about this imaginary show. And I'm like, no, it's a real thing. Anyway, thank you everyone so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this week. I would love to hear from more people if you experienced all this, what you thought of these moments. I know people don't want to spoil it too much for themselves ahead of time, but would love to hear from people what they thought of it. It's a big week. It was exciting to talk about all this stuff.
Yes.
Any parting thoughts, Tom, before we whisk away into the night?
I'm going to put a cap on people's guesses, joke guesses for the sign.
Okay.
Question. No more than 5 words. It's a sign. Don't be ridiculous.
Fair enough. Okay.
That's my...
I appreciate
I'm just saying, listen, restriction breeds creativity.
I was going to say the same thing. God, we're spending too much time together on this show. Anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you to everyone out there for listening and for watching. If you're playing the DLC, we hope you're enjoying it. We'll talk about coverage plans as we get there and all that sort of stuff. Don't want to spoil anything for Tom. Please don't spoil anything for Tom.
Yes, that is a very good point. I have not looked up anything about episode Aegis.
Yeah.
I am staying away from it. I didn't even edit our IGN's own review of it. I handed that review off to somebody else.
And again, I sincerely mean this. Do not watch any trailer they have put up for this thing if you are playing along with us.
I haven't watched trailers. I'm staying away from it. So please don't spoil me.
Yeah. Well, I hope you all make it out there spoiler free. I hope you enjoyed this week. I'm looking forward to talking about what's to come. And until then, thank you all so much for listening and watching. And I hope, as always, you seize the day.